Elusive Truth with Rich and Larry. Today's show is all over the board. I guess we can't keep anything straight. The world is crazier than we know it. So we're going to start off with something really funny from, of all places, Saturday Night Live. Can you believe it? They haven't been funny since the 70s. But I caught this clip and I thought it was appropriate. Have a listen. So sit back and relax as we fall into the rabbit hole.
Is it me, or does it every story this week sound like the opening voiceover in a Mad Max movie? The year is 2022. A virus rages across the planet. Digital money has collapsed. Infants have nothing to eat. Women are forced to breed. Men are ready to die for gasoline. And we suffer under the leadership of the one known only as Joe.
See what I mean? They haven't been that funny for a long time. I'm sure that was the only thing that was funny that Saturday night. Moving on, we are going to go to another kind of a funny thing from the Young Democrats. It's actually kind of sad because this is the real state of our society. But anyway, have a listen.
And here's a little something from the Young Democrats conference. Our country's in trouble because this is our future.
Do you know what year the War of 1812 was?
What year the War of 1812 was? I did it in school. I'm trying to remember. I forgot. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yes, like when do you think it was? Was it a while ago or recently?
A while ago.
Guess a year.
1980, possibly.
Do you know what state Utah is in?
Utah? Nebraska?
Do you know how many states make up the USA?
Uh-huh.
How many? No, you know this. Around
40,
how many?
40.
40 what?
40.
You know this. 40 what?
41.
Funny, but not funny. I guess this is what happens when you teach wokeism in school instead of teaching basic life facts, math, history, which is debatable these days, but spelling, English, that kind of stuff. What a long time it's been since I've been in a real school. Moving on, we have plenty to talk about, and it just gets not really worse from here, but ay. And now, for the most popular person in the universe, Dr. Fauci is a fraud. From Fox News, Kennedy. This is kind of interesting.
Anthony Fauci, that man, he's a megalomaniacal fraud whose analysis, policies, and conclusions harmed children. Everything he instructed us to do was self-serving or flat out wrong, and research from Johns Hopkins shows lockdowns barely saved lives by 0.2%. Tiny Tony was in Seattle receiving an award from the Hutch and dropped this narcissistic nugget about something he calls the Fauci effect.
It's called the Fauci effect. People go to medical school now. People are interested in science, not because of me, because most people don't know me. It's what I symbolize. People, the craving for consistency, for integrity, for truth.
Oh, yes, St. Anthony single-handedly saved modern medicine by being the inspiration for a new generation of Meredith Greys. My sweet keister. Med school applications are up because people didn't want to go to med school when nothing was being done in person. The same reason people quit their jobs and deferred to college. He shut down the known world out of an abundance of caution. And now that people are reverting to previous plans, he wants a medal. You know what the real Fauci effect is? He lied about everything, including gain-of-function research. The virus came God knows where from, but he did everything to cover his ass, so we'll never know. When actual science takes stock in the pandemic, from the shady origins to the tragic fallout of depressed children being robbed of normal childhoods, they will see, if there is an honest examination, that everything he told us was wrong. When asked by California health officials whether they should shut down the state, he said, "You really have no choice." But there is a choice. People can always be given the risks, and they should always be allowed to choose freedom. And they have. If, God forbid, this ever happen again, people will move to places like Florida with open schools and functioning economies versus places like California and New York that gave in to teachers' union terror and deprived kids of their right to learn and exist. Kids were propagandized to believe they were the problem. They were causing the virus when it was really the highest paid government employee who used his influence and power in a ghastly failed experiment to engineer a solution that was worse than the virus itself. Dr. Fauci does not deserve medals or accolades. His work and hubris demand an investigation and consequences. So we are never terrorized by a self-important blowhard and a white coat ever again. And that's the memo. Now, given his record, Fauci is no fan of freedom. At the same talk, he complained about opposition to forced masking. Watch.
You tell people they need to mask in an indoor congregate setting. That is looked upon by a lot of people, not everybody, as an encroachment on your freedom. We've never had that before. It's almost inexplicable.
So what is the medical term for pompous, arrogant narcissism? The party panel is back. Jason Meister, Richard Fowler, Olivia Rondeau. It's really hard for me to sit with a straight face and listen to him, Jason, because, my kids, New York City public schools, the horrible mayor who was in office during the pandemic, Bill de Blasio, listen to Anthony Fauci, whose CDC was working in concert with teachers' unions to keep schools closed again for the entire year. So it's really hard for me to listen to what a great job he's done and how horrible people are who are skeptical of one person having that much power.
Yeah, Kennedy, I couldn't agree more with you. Look, I have elementary age children as well that were masked for 7-8 hours a day. Dr. Fauci has done more harm to undermine public trust in medical and scientific institutions than any other unelected government bureaucrat, an official, health official. He lied about the masks. He lied about the vaccines. He lied about funding gain-of-function research. He lied about the threat. He lied about the Wuhan Institute of Virology. He lied about everything. So naturally, he says he symbolizes truth and science. It's a disgrace.
But it's interesting, Richard, because he puts himself at the center of everything. We're no longer talking about the virus. We're just talking about him because he just wants to talk about himself. That is not helpful because we're not talking about China. We're not talking about accountability and origins. And, he's using his technocracy to try and distract us from that. But that is still the most important thing. So this doesn't happen again.
Well, we're also not talking about the fragility of our healthcare system. Right now, as we sit here and we have this conversation, we have a shortage of nurses. We have a shortage of respiratory therapists. We also have a shortage of doctors going into the field, and this should concern all Americans.
Not according to Fauci. No, not according. He says that medical school applications are on the rise because of him and him alone.
But Kennedy, I'm not talking about Fauci. I'm talking about my own reporting, where I've sat down with folks going into the field, and what you find is there's a lot of inherent barriers to folks going into the field. Number one, it costs $500,000 to be a doctor in the United States, and it costs $60,000 or $70,000 to become a registered nurse in the United States on average. And so what we've got to do as a country is say our healthcare workers matter because they're key to our existence, and what this pandemic should have taught us is just how fragile our system is, and the fact that we need more nurses, we need more respiratory therapists, and we should be investing in them.
Well, maybe we've got too many government regulations that is keeping all of this so incredibly expensive, Olivia, because, these institutions, there is no accountability there. So they have no reason to keep costs low. So they can go ahead and stick it to doctors who will make millions more over their lifetime than people who get ordinary or no degrees.
Absolutely. Big pharmaceutical companies and institutions absolutely collude with the government so they can price gouge as much as they want. That's not a secret to anybody. Also, I have to pose the question, is part of the reason there may be a shortage of nurses and doctors be because there was a crazy vaccine mandate that fired literally thousands of emergency personnel, medical workers, doctors, nurses? I mean, we really do have to reel back some of these government regulations. I think that ruling back some of the bureaucracy could be a great way on the paying for college front and the actually getting and maintaining your job front when it comes to the shortage in medical doctors and nurses and all that.
Yes.
Kennedy.
Okay, hold on. I just want to respond to her, and then I'll let you respond, Richard. She brings up such a good point. You fired doctors and nurses. You told them if they weren't vaccinated, even though they had been exposed to the virus over and over again, that they no longer had jobs. You did the same thing with pilots, so they retired. You know, we have a shortage of pilots and nurses, so flights don't take off on time, and it takes hours to see someone when you go to the emergency room. Go ahead and respond, Richard, please.
Listen, I hear that, and I think that's a very valid argument, but it's worth pointing out that the shortage started far before, or way before the creation of COVID-19. The shortage started in the early 2000s.
See, you said it. In the lab.
Creation.
Sure. It started in the early 2000s, and what the pandemic did is it just made it worse. And so if we're not going to talk about this now, the next time something else happens, it could be uniquely worse. And you're seeing these same people being put on the front lines as we as a country now to try to tackle monkeypox.
If it happens again, I will not participate in any orgies anytime soon, but I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, now,
and mind you, it can spread beyond just participating in orgies.
I know. That's what, as a hypochondriac, that's what freaks me out. You get a pimple and you're like, monkeypox.
Isn't it amazing what 2.5 years difference makes? Fox News would have never put that out. And now Dr. Fauci is under the microscope, and people have been waking up and understanding what's really going on. And just to kind of prove my point, here's another quick little thing on the CDC. NPR put this out.
I don't know whether to laugh or to scream. NPR reporting on new COVID-19 guidance from the CDC. Bullet point 1, those exposed to the virus are no longer required to quarantine. I'm going to skip number 2 for a second. You'll see why. Number 3, students can stay in class after being exposed to the virus. Okay, number 4, it's no longer recommended to screen those without symptoms. Okay, and then number 2, unvaccinated people now have the same guidance as vaccinated people. Unvaccinated people have It's been 2.5 years. People lost their jobs. And they said, you have to get it. And if you won't, you're going to lose your job. You can't go to school. You can't never mind. Oops. I don't know whether to laugh or to scream.
Wow, just another glimmer of hope that people are starting to realize and wake up and understand what's been happening. For my next clip, Dave Rubin on Klaus Schwab and the New World Order. Yeah, because that's not true.
World Economic Forum pushes space bubbles to block out the sun, so they are literally taking a plot from The Simpsons.
He is pure evil.
Klaus Schwab, who comes off as an evil cartoon character, is the head of the World Economic Forum. He is the main driver of this new world order that these people want to put in.
To limit global warming, replace any corporate board of directors who is unwilling to transition to cleaner energy sources.
He seems like a nice guy. He says that they should replace corporate leaders who basically won't play along with their climate change agenda.
Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?
Nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated.
Wouldn't that imply that the vaccine doesn't work? Nobody will be safe if everyone isn't vaccinated.
Now you're probably thinking, what is going on? Who the heck is Klaus Schwab? Well, a lot of people don't know about the guy, but apparently he controls, like the world, with a lot of other people. So you need to look into more of Klaus Schwab. And you thought monkeypox and this whole thing was crazy. Seriously, this World Economic Forum, just like the Georgia Guidestones, it's out there for everybody to see, but I guess no one is listening. For my next clip, has to do more with billionaires and the reality of racism. Have a listen. I've taken out most of the profanity. So anyway, enjoy.
It's not about colors. If you're a billionaire and you go into a room and you meet a billionaire from Africa and a billionaire from Mexico and a billionaire from India, do you think that as a white billionaire, you think, oh, black people? No, you don't give a. Rich people all get along, no matter what color they are. The billionaires all stand around and talk, and they're all different colors. Yeah. Nobody minds. The only people who divide themselves by color are the poor people. It's always been about rich and poor. It's not about black and white. It's not about Democrat and Republican. It's not about any of the things that the elites are tricking you into thinking it's about. If you are sitting here thinking, this is about white people and Republicans and I'm a black Democrat, you are low IQ. It's nothing to do with that. Because the billionaire black people and the billionaire white people are friends. And the number one goal of the elites is to make sure the people, the shit munchers at the bottom who have lost their jobs due to a virus and can't pay the bills, don't sit and think long enough to get their shit together and work as a team.
He's not wrong, bro. He's not.
It's not about colors.
Well put. It is definitely not about color. It's about inequality of economics. We also have a problem with people not worrying about themselves and worrying about others and their cultural misappropriations. Here's a little clip from PragerU, and it's a white male dressed in a sombrero and a mustache and carrying maracas, and he's on a college campus, and predominantly white males and females are coming up to him and basically saying he's racist. And then said character goes into a predominantly Hispanic community and gets their opinion. But this is real life. Listen to it.
Is offensive?
Are you Mexican?
No.
Yes.
I think it reaffirms stereotypes that are offensive to people.
It's not yours.
Do you find my outfit offensive?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's not your culture. You don't really understand what their culture means and what it means to wear these things, like the hats and the maracas. You know, you sort of have to understand where all of this comes from for it to not be cultural appropriation.
Does my outfit offend you?
You look, no. You look nice.
Do you like my costume?
Yes.
Does it offend you?
No.
Do you like my outfit?
Oh, yeah, it's awesome.
Does my outfit offend you?
No, not at all.
No, nothing. That's good.
Do you think my outfit is offensive?
It just goes to show you, if we had better communication with each other, we might not have this problem. But again, I'm assuming it's going back to our smartphones and everybody with TikTok and social media, that we now are able to assume rather than understand how life really works. This next little clip from Zeducation is pretty funny, and it kind of illustrates what I was talking about.
A woman can do anything a man can do. Try pissing on a campfire.
Moving on, because we have more crazy stuff to talk about. Let's go back to Fox News again, and we'll talk about the infamous FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago. The drama continues.
Let us bring in Fox News contributor and former Wisconsin Congressman Sean Duffy. Sean, in light of that report, how the heck can the White House, Joe Biden, claim they knew nothing about this raid and the information that led up to it?
Well, we all know that, as the White House was saying, hey, listen, we knew nothing about the raid. All of us knew that didn't pass the smell test. Of course they were going to know that if the FBI and the DOJ are going to raid a former president's home, this is highly political. It's never happened before. And Joe Biden and his allies in the White House are, of course, going to sign off on it. So, again, I think this new revelation indicates, of course, he was involved. Of course they knew. And, again, you can't lie to the American people. Or well, he can, but we're going to find out, right?
You can, but we'll find out. The National Archives discovered apparently more than 700 pages of classified documents at Trump's home in January, and that is now being seen as possible justification for going into Trump's home and raiding it. Is it?
Well, Donald Trump says, well, I declassified these documents when I took them with me, and I had a standing order. So, no, they weren't. But by the way, you came to my home in June. You took the 700 documents. Okay. Well, if you thought there were more there, why didn't you just come back down and take the rest of the documents that you thought I had that were classified? The process actually worked in June. Why wouldn't it work in August? I think this was a predicate to go in and search his whole house. And when you look at the breadth of the warrant, which we've discussed earlier, I mean, it was, you can search everywhere for basically anything in Trump's home. And so the way they did this tells me they were looking for something other than classified documents. This was about, whether it was, documents that Trump had that were going to go to his civil suit against the DNC, Hillary Clinton, and former FBI employees, or it could have gone to January 6th. But this was such a historic search, the breadth of the warrant, made no sense just to go back and get some more documents that you say were classified when you could have done what you did in June? Why wouldn't you do that in August? Doesn't make sense to me.
Sean, there's also this. It's a Wisconsin school board story. We actually have two, but this one, the Kettle Moraine School Board in Wisconsin voted in favor of banning all religious and political symbols in classrooms. That includes gay pride flags, Black Lives Matter flags, and We Back the Badge signs. So it kind of cuts both ways, this one. And some people are saying, well, that may be good, but also if you ban all political and religious symbols, how far does it go? Can we say, in God we trust? And, you know, there are other things that could be perceived as political that a lot of parents think are good. So what do you think about this?
Well, liberals would say the American flag is political as well, and therefore that should not be in the classroom, right? I mean, it could go that far, to your point, Carly. But, you know, I think what we've seen is, of course, many of us would like religious symbols in the classroom. And by the way, they're historic symbols as well. But I think that you're seeing a lot of woke leftist teachers come out of the teacher colleges, and they want to bring in the themes of gay pride or BLM, and they push those themes on the students. And I think the school boards and the parents saw what was happening and said, you know what, we got to get rid of all of this. And you can't just say gay pride and BLM. We're going to get rid of all these symbols. Let's teach math, science, English to children, and leave these other themes out of the classroom. And again, I think this probably makes sense, seeing how woke our schools and teachers have become, just to get rid of all of it and let them go back to the basics.
But speaking of woke, let's go to Wauwatosa. School board there voting to teach kindergartners body part names, second graders gender stereotypes, third graders about transgender students, consent and body image, sixth graders learning about different types of sexual activity, sixth grade, and high schoolers will be taught warning signs of abusive relationships and contraception. Sean, why the heck is any of this stuff being taught in school in the first place when they should be learning math and science?
Oh, listen, Todd, I mean, this is one of the reasons why parents are running for the doors, trying to get their kids out of the public school, get them into, whether they're a homeschool pod, whether it's a Catholic school or any kind of Christian academy. They want their kids to learn, to your point about math, science, English. They don't want them to learn about these, the sexual identities and sexual preferences and body parts at such a young age. There's an appropriate time maybe to have a conversation about these topics, but it's probably in your home. But if at school, we're looking at far later in life as opposed to kindergartners, third graders, sixth graders having really inappropriate conversations. And just a note, Wauwatosa is not like San Francisco, or always hasn't been. It was a pretty conservative area not that long ago, and it's remarkable how fast things can change. That a school board in Wauwatosa, which is a suburb of Milwaukee, would transition so fast to these radical policies. And if it happens in Wauwatosa, this kind of stuff is happening everywhere. And I think the point here is elections matter. Run for school board and make sure your kids aren't subject to these crazy, woke, sexually driven policies.
Yeah, and now in third grade in the school district, you're taught, maybe if you are a boy but feel like a girl, that's okay. I mean, it's just so confusing. And this was voted in 6-1. So I'm sure that there are a lot of concerned parents in this school district this morning.
It's coming to a town near you, Sean Duffy. Thank you, sir.
The worst thing about this is that schools all over the nation are doing stuff like this. At least Florida, with Governor DeSantis, is trying to purge this craziness out of the schools, but it's a tough uphill battle. Now to switch gears to go on foundations and other crazy stuff, Jordan Maxwell. Whether you like him or not, or understand what he talks about, at least he makes you think, and that is the goal. Think rather than react or act to anything. Just think about it and open up your mind. Anyway, this guy, a gentleman, he passed March 23rd of 2022. So just recently, a few months ago. Apparently, he has a huge library of information, jordanmaxwell.com. Check out this information for yourself, but I have some snippets of some of his interviews. Check them out. Awfully interesting. And it makes you go, I'm starting to understand.
You know, let me give you an example. If you had a two-story building, and you were going to put a lot of weight on the second floor, like printing presses or whatever, the smart thing to do is go downstairs first, get on a ladder with the building inspector, go up through the ceiling tiles and examine the floor you're going to build on, and see if it's going to hold that kind of weight. So what you're doing is you're standing under the floor or the foundation you're going to build on, okay? So that's where you get understanding. Because you're standing under.
To stand under something to see if you can take the weight
or
of the
no, to see
information.
what it's sitting on, see what it's based on. So that's where we get the word understanding.
To see if we can.
To see, you need to stand under a subject. Don't just buy the subject. Go back and read the words, where they came from, what they
get
meant.
under the subject to see if it has
Precisely,
weight.
exactly. Go to the library, and there's one of the best sets of books in any library is called the Oxford Dictionary of the English Language. It's a huge voluminous set, and they're large volumes, and each word that has ever been used in the English language is traced back to day one. So it's like 2 or 3 pages per word.
Wow.
And it explains where these words came from, how they were developed.
And those words then have rooted ourselves into the subconscious. So the word we're using really is being felt deeper than the superficial
And
meaning.
you are reacting to it with your life. You're doing things every day because you think you have to. Why? Because you didn't know you don't have to. You don't have to go to court. I don't care what your criminal, or what kind of a crime you committed. I don't care how big it is. You don't have to go to court.
You don't? What do you have?
No.
What if you're...
You have to you have to fill out a particular kind of form, send it to the Secretary of State, and say to the Secretary of State, I wish to settle out of court. You can settle anything out of court.
You can.
Of course. If Ford Motor Company is suing General Motors, they can settle out of court. So you won't know what they did to settle the thing because it's out of court.
Out of the water.
It's out of the water, right?
Right.
So you can settle any criminal complaint out of court. You just go through the Secretary of State and say that you want to settle this out of court.
So to sort of wrap up, is there a chance the world is going to change, that we're moving into a higher No chance.
I don't think so. I think there are individuals like yourself and others like me and others like us who are beginning to awaken, but there is no possible chance that the human race is going to wake up and figure anything out, because this kind of knowledge I'm talking about does not have anything to do with football or sports or
the mind
movies.
control.
So as long as the human race is interested in the Hollywood starlets or football or the silly sports or all this other silliness that goes on with entertainment, then the human family as a race on the earth are not going to be evolving upward. We're just going down. We're going further down.
What about the ETs? We're hearing an alien ET conference. Are they... I mean, they exist and they've been covered.
Oh yeah,
up,
there's no doubt that they exist.
Are the presence of that going to make a difference because it's going to change everything?
It might for you. It might for you if they look at you know as well as I do. If you walk into a kindergarten and you see all the children playing, they have no idea what's going on in the world. They're little children, right?
Right.
But if one of them happens to be very perceptive, and is asking you very perceptive questions, you as an adult will say, that kid's smart, right? Maybe I'll take an interest in him and find out, more about him and get him into a better school or something.
Right.
That's what obviously the alien presence on the earth is thinking. They're not going to show themselves to the human race. We shoot each other.
Right.
We shoot our presidents.
Right.
We shoot our husbands and wives. We kill everybody.
We shoot the ones we love.
And so why would any higher intelligence come here and want to show themselves to us? Because we will first of all call the police on them, call the authorities and have them arrested, or we will shoot them or throw them into prison. So why would any highly intelligent advanced civilization want to mess with us at all?
Right.
That's why they stay probably out there and watching us. That's what I would do.
What about 2012? Any thoughts about
that's entertainment. We're talking about entertainment Hollywood.
Mayan calendar,
Right.
all that stuff. It's
all
just,
entertainment.
It's just,
Let me give you this
please.
one quickie point.
Yeah,
Western civilization is based on the white man's culture, and the white man's culture comes from Europe. And in the European section of Eastern and Western, well, all of Europe, Europe is a white man's home, okay? And for 1,000 years before the Roman Empire ever existed, and it still exists today in Europe, was a whole system of government, religion, law, etc. was already established before Rome ever came about. And that whole system of government over the white man's world of Europe 1,000 years before Rome was called the Druid system.
Right.
Druids, well, they were the lawyers, the attorneys, they were the judges, the religious leaders, they were everything. The doctors, the medical, everything was Druid in Europe. One of the most important symbols in the Druid religion was a magic wand, like the conductor of an orchestra. He waves his magic wand, and you had better dance to the tune, because he's the boss.
So the wand.
So the magic wand, like Merlin the magician, magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of Hollywood. Okay. So once you understand, it's the magic of Hollywood that's orchestrating the whole world to dance to a new tune. So.
Wow. So where does that leave us?
It leaves you in a world of trouble. If you are ignorant, ill-informed, and unread, you need to open your mind and discover for the first time that law, courts, education, it's all part of a system you need to begin to open your mind and study.
And understand.
And how the world really works.
See how it's
And the best way to do that is go onto my website, because I've been doing it for years.
Tell people your website.
Very simple, jordanmaxwell.com. Jordan, like the river Jordan. Maxwell, like the coffee.com. jordanmaxwell.com. Go through all of my links. Go through all the research pages. I have just hundreds of incredible documents, especially on the links. That will just blow your mind on religion, government, symbols, hidden stuff. The whole world of real wisdom has been hidden. That's what the word occult means. Hidden. So, I mean, how much of this have you known before I told you?
Oh, some of it. But
but you've heard it from...
I've heard it for the first time, some of it here. But I mean, especially the maritime stuff I have. The other interesting thing is the way even gas companies use these sacred symbols of the shell, the chevron, the shell is the ancient symbol for the incarnational existence.
Yeah, the scallop shell, of course. Once you begin to see how words and terms and symbols are used, and the powers that be in this world have set up a world of symbols and emblems and terms and catchphrases. Once you understand how this system works, for the first time, the world opens up to you. All of it is right in front of you. But if you don't understand what the words are and what the words mean, you're never going to figure out how this stuff works. There's a very sinister, frightening, interesting symbolism that has been imposed upon this country, and the people have no idea in the world what's going on. And I will guarantee you, no matter how educated you might think you are, I will guarantee you, you have no idea in the world how the world actually works. You need to understand that when even on your check, when you're writing a check, the place where you put your name on a check, look at that line, what you're signing on, and get a magnifying glass, and you will find that's not a solid line to sign your name on. That is written, it's a typewritten sentence that's been honed down to microscopic size. Get a magnifying glass and read on a check what is said where you sign your name. One of the most interesting symbols in Druidism was a magic wand. Magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of Hollywood. And we're still seeing the magic of the wood of the holly tree. Hollywood. Hollywood. Motion pictures, television, I have discovered many years ago that words and magical systems dominate the world that we live in. There is, in point of fact, a magical matrix at work. I've always been interested in the occult. Occult is simply a word meaning hidden, and so much of our powers in this world and the way things work are hidden. And the more one looks at this subject of how the world actually works, you begin to see that there's a magical system, and I'm telling you, there really is a magical system dominating the world of the Western civilization. And for 1,000 years before the Roman Empire existed in Northern Europe, basically Western Europe, there was a magical priesthood called the Druids. And the Druids still even exist to this day. And it was a very legitimate political, social, educational, religious institution dominating Europe for thousands of years. And they were referred to as the Druids. They were actually from the Phoenician Canaanite system in the Middle East. The Phoenician Canaanites formed the basis for the ancient Druidic system, and that's even older. But in the ancient Druidic system, there were many powerful symbols and emblems. One of the most interesting symbols in Druidism was a magic wand, like Merlin the magician with his magic wand. Magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It was made out of hollywood. And we're still seeing the magic of the wood of the holly tree. Hollywood, motion pictures, television. And once you begin to see the symbols and realize that the symbols for the national coats of arms for countries, the flags, the seals, the presidential seals, the emblems for the logos and emblems on corporations, especially the corporate emblems for motion pictures and television companies like Columbia Broadcasting System. CBS has the eye. The Colombian system goes back to the Colombian faction of the Illuminati back in the early 1700s, not the late 1700s. And you begin to see why Space Shuttle is called Columbia. You have Columbia University, Columbia Pictures, Columbia Broadcasting. Columbia is a very interesting word, and it's connected to the Jesuits. Once you begin to see how words and terms and symbols are used, and of course symbols are extraordinarily important in world affairs, all of a sudden it opens up, as I said, a whole new perspective on how stuff is happening. Let me give you an example of how words, my friend William Henry says you put an S in front of the word word and it becomes swords. The words are swords. They are cutting things. Humans are word responsive creatures. We respond to people's words. When you begin to see how words are used, let me give you an example of the magic. Why do you have to go to court? You go to court because you play basketball on a court. You play tennis on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Why? Because the people that develop it know it's a racket. That's where we get the term. Consequently, you need to understand that the words which are used by the systems under which we live are not by chance. In a court, the whole idea in a court is to put the ball back in the other guy's court. So this team of attorneys, they stand up and throw the ball back at the other team. Now the ball's in their court. They have to get up and throw the ball back into that court. The judge wears a black robe. Why does a judge wear a black robe? Well, the same reason Catholic priests wear black robes. Rabbis wear black robes. You wear a black robe. For many years, young people graduating from university and college wear a black robe. What's this stuff with a black robe? Let me give you an example of how this stuff works, and it's a very quick example. There are two basic kinds of law under the law of magic. There are two kinds of laws that govern the earth. One is called the law of the land, L-A-N-D. And we've heard that term, law of the land. Why do you use that term, the law of the land? Because that's where people live, is on land. But there's an opposing law which is far more important, far, far more powerful. It is called the law of water. It was developed under the old Druidic system in Europe, which can trace its history back through the Roman Empire, through the Vatican, and ultimately back to the Phoenician Canaanites in the Middle East, of what we today call Phoenicia. Cana was called back what we call today Israel and Lebanon. Syria, that was called Phoenicia, Cana. And the Phoenician Canaanites, the very word Cana, which we've all heard in relation to the Bible, Cana is a Phoenician word meaning bankers, merchant bankers. Well, the Phoenician Canaanites set up a system of merchant banking and had their Phoenician Canaanite symbols and words connected to their societies, their banking societies. We're talking about in the Middle East. And then through the Greece, and ultimately through Rome, and then into Britannia, and ultimately into this country comes an ancient Druidic Phoenician Canaanite magical system of finance, education, and all of it is right in front of you. But if you don't understand what the words are and what the words mean, you're never going to figure out how this stuff works. We all have a cursory understanding of what we think is going on. That's not it. You need to understand that when even on your check, when you're writing a check, the place where you put your name on a check, look at that line, what you're signing on, and get a magnifying glass, and you will find that's not a solid line to sign your name on. That is written. It's a typed written sentence that's been honed down to microscopic size. Get a magnifying glass and read on a check what is said where you sign your name. That's why the attorneys tell you, you better check the small print. The small print is ultra small. Where you sign your name on a check is saying something. Go back and read it. You need to understand that according to the old Phoenician Canaanite system, which we call today our judicial, educational and judicial system, there is no law in this country or in the Western world, no law, federal, state, county, city, commercial, it makes no difference. There is no law on the books anywhere in this country that applies to you as an individual creature. There is no law, because the people who designed the system thousands of years ago realized that there's two of you. There's the one that your mother gave birth to, that God created, so to speak, and even your mother didn't know what you were doing. Even your father and your mother have no idea what you're thinking or what you will do. You don't even know. So consequently, they have no control over you, your flesh and blood self. But somebody has to control this show. And so consequently, the ancient Phoenician Canaanites developed a system by which they would assign to every person a second you. And this is the way it works in America. There is two of you. Just as there are two states in this country, of every state is two states. You have the state of Nevada and Nevada State. You have Cal State, California State, and State of California. Not the same thing at all. California State, according to the law, is one thing. State of California is totally different. Has nothing to do with each other at all. It's the difference between being a lawyer and an attorney. Has nothing to do with them at all. It's totally separate words, means totally separate things. Consequently, when you understand how words and terms are used and symbols are used, then we go back to the idea of the court. And as I said, there is no law in this country on any books that applies to you. None. All law in the Western civilization applies only to cooperations, co-ops. All law applies only to corporations, period. Across the board. No other, end of sentence. Consequently, there is no law that applies to you personally, so consequently, the system has made each one of you a corporation. And how now do you distinguish which one, when someone's addressing you, that they're addressing you as the one that your mother gave birth to, or the corporate you. Very simple. According to British law, when you sign your name, upper and lower case, that is applying to your body. Your flesh and blood self is spelled, according to British and American law, upper and lower case, capital letter, lower case. That's you, your personal self. There is no law that can be applied to an upper and lower case name, period. No law at all can be applied to an upper and lower case name because there is no law over you. Therefore, every piece of important bills, insurance, driver's license, identification, taxes, I don't care what it is. If it's a piece of business, period, in any kind of way, shape, or form, your name must, by law, international maritime admiralty banking law, your name must appear in all capital letters. You will never get a bill or anything that has your name upper and lower case because there is no law that applies to an upper and lower case name, period. So if Sears is going to send you a bill, if you go into Baskin Robbins or Sears and you order a pair of shoes, what are you going to do? They're going to give you a ticket, and you're going to put it on your bill, and then they're expecting you to pay the bill. And consequently, they're going to charge you. Well, that's the same thing. You go into a courtroom. They're going to read out the charges. And the cop gave you the ticket, and you have been charged with speeding or whatever. And therefore, you have to pay the charge. Well, once you understand that in America, according to our laws in America, you cannot pay a bill. Did you know that? According to international banking law, Americans cannot pay a bill. So when you say, well, I got to pay this, I'll pay that bill, well, that's a term that we use. But in point of fact, lawfully, you cannot pay a bill. You can discharge a debt. You cannot pay a bill. So consequently, you need to understand, what do you mean discharge a debt? Now it gets back to the court again. Now it gets back to the symbols and emblems of why the judge wears a black robe. It has to do with the planet Saturn. Saturn is the god that inhibits. He's the inhibitor and the law god, the god of law who inhibits, who holds back. He holds back everything and teaches you a lesson the hard way. Saturn. And women were told in the ancient world to listen to their god Saturn, who incidentally was called Lord of the Rings. Okay? And consequently, they're still making movies in Hollywood on Lord of the Rings, the planet Saturn. Women were told to listen to their god, the Lord of the Rings, so they were wearing an ear ring. Men were to get married before Saturn, their god, so they would wear a wedding ring. Consequently, the king would be crowned before Saturn. Saturn would be the round crown of the corona, the ring. Saturn, the god who is the inhibitor, the god of occult law, the mystical god Saturn, Lord of the Rings, who is in charge of and controls all occult law in the universe. This is why today we know that Saturn was referred to as El, E-L. El is a name that was given to the planet Saturn. And therefore, if you are worshiping Saturn, you represent the law, you are referred to in church today as an elder. How did you get to be an elder? You got to be an elder because you were one of the elites. How did you get to be an elite? You got elected. Because through elections, all of our system is based on occult, mystical words and terms going back to the planet Saturn, going back to the Phoenician Canaanite system of banking. Incidentally, where do you find a bank? We go to banks all the time. Where do you find a bank? Banks are on both sides of a river. They're called river banks. What does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the currency. Your money is referred to as the currency. This is why when you go to court, you have the current, electricity, because it's the juice. And if you don't have the juice, you don't have it. So if you don't have the juice, you can't capitalize. And the capital is a Latin word, meaning money. There's a very sinister, frightening, interesting symbolism that has been imposed upon this country, and the people have no idea in the world what's going on. All goes back to the Phoenician Canaanite system and ancient Phoenicia, ancient Babylonian Sumeria, and this is why the work of Zecharia Sitchin is so important. This is where the kings of England get their concept of the divine right of kings. What are you talking about, divine right? All of this is part of a subject which I call ancient mysticism that dominates the Western civilization.
I think my mind blew out of my head the stuff that this guy has. JordanMaxwell.com. This is just the tip of the iceberg, folks. Open your eyes. It's in front of us. It's been there all along. Amazing. Taking that red pill has its consequences, and this is the beginning. The enlightenment has begun. One of the amazing things that I learned about Jordan Maxwell, he talked a lot about Project Avalon and some of these other wacky projects from the CIA. And on doing some research, I found some documents that, it's hard to believe that they released things like this, but back from 1977, this craziness that's going back to MK Ultra and Project Looking Glass. Just, again, stuff that's mind-blowing because we weren't privy to this information, and it just, again, more questions than answers. But anyway, I want you to have the craziness of what the CIA is involved with. And this is just another, a small, tiny sand pebble in an ocean.
The CIA revealed in one of its declassified documents from 1977 that the code 55515 can be used to reduce pain. Anecdotal reports state an almost immediate reduce in pain after using this method. Could it be a placebo effect? Or recoding your body? As I dug further into it, it turns out that 55515 is a gene related to pain perception that was discovered in 2000. A NCBI page on this specific gene writes, "These channels have been implicated in synaptic transmission, pain perception, as well as mechanoperception. Mechanoreception is the ability to respond to certain kinds of stimuli. This gene is expressed predominantly in the pituitary gland." Interesting, right? To better understand how the actual method for reducing pain works, let's take a look at this declassified CIA document. Restriction. The material contained herein is intended for the personal and private use only by those who have completed the first session of the Gateway program. The attempted application by others may result in undesirable and uncontrolled effects detrimental to any such unauthorized user. Repeat this affirmation in your mind. I open this channel of communication only to those whose knowledge, wisdom, development, and experience is equal or greater than my own. I restrict such contact and communication to constructive purpose and reject all other. I open such channel only when I so consciously desire. At all other times, it will remain closed. 1. Do your resonant breathing exercise. Inhale deeply, pulling in energy from all parts of your physical body up to and then into your head. Hold your breath for a comfortable length of time, eventually holding it to the count of 10, swirling the energy around in your brain. Then exhale slowly through your mouth, as though you were slowly and easily blowing out a candle. At the same time, imagine that you are expelling stale, used-up energy through the bottoms of your feet. After the first inhale-exhale, your brain is filled with the new, fresh energy. On the second inhale, bring the new, fresh energy to your upper chest and arms, and exhale the stale, used-up energy from the abdomen down. On the third, bring the new energy to the abdomen. On the fourth, to the pelvic region. To the thighs and knees on the fifth, and on the sixth, to the lower legs and feet. It's as if we are filling an inverted jar full of new, fresh energy in 6 steps. 2. Place all your problems and distractions in the security repository box. 3. Say the affirmation while bringing back your strong desire to expand yourself and explore, know and understand, control and use the non-physical energies most beneficial for you and those around you. To reach focus 10 from consciousness number 1, C1, relax deeply in lying down or sitting down position. Feel yourself drifting into deep relaxation. When you can drift no more, say to yourself on an exhale, 2. Notice that you drift down a little more. If you do not, wait until you do. Then say 3, and so on until you reach 10. 10 may not feel the same each time, or even feel that it is the same depth each time. If you are dissatisfied with the level of relaxation at your 10, start again with 5, or even 2. To return to C1 from focus 10, count slowly in your mind from 10 to 1. Emergency return to C1. Think of any part of physical body. Move that physical part, finger, foot, tongue, etc. Energy bar tool. Purpose: to stimulate and focus non-physical energies. Method: while sitting or lying down, relax thoroughly, perhaps counting to 10 slowly in order to reach focus 10. Then, no matter how vague it seems, take your energy bar tool from wherever you keep it, hold it close, and then tell yourself, on. With command, the bar lights up and becomes thicker in your hands. Then say off. The light goes off, and the bar becomes thinner. Do this very slowly for a while. The tool probably should have a shape that makes it easy to hold. Some see it as a magic wand, others as a fluorescent tube, and still others as the tool out of Star Wars. Whatever shape appeals to you is best. After turning it on and off slowly, say once every second or two with intense concentration. Begin to speed it up slowly. If you find yourself breathing in time with the ons and offs, consciously disassociate the breathing from it. Also, disassociate the words on and off from the process. Speed it up even more. Hold the intense concentration. You will notice a subtle or not so subtle sensation in the solar plexus area, pulsing in time with the ons and offs. When you can hold the concentration on the energy bar tool on and off enough to speed them up even more, up to a slow stroboscopic speed, do so. Later, take it up to a faster stroboscopic speed. But make sure you are definitely turning the energy bar tool on and off, and that the sensation in the solar plexus, or perhaps all over the whole body, is in time with the ons and offs. Eventually, you can get the ons and offs going so fast that the bar appears to be on continuously, and the sensation in the solar plexus is one of exciting, charged electrical warmth. The whole body feels more energized. This may be a subtle feeling at first, or quite strong. Achieving and maintaining this feeling while holding on to the EBT is the objective. After this exercise becomes easier and more familiar, you will notice that when you first grasp the EBT, it will begin to charge itself, and you along with it. Later on, you will find many uses for your EBT. It becomes a multi-purpose tool. When you have completed an exercise with your EBT, put it back in the place where you always keep it, so that later you will find it waiting and ready to be charged. Living body map. Purpose: 1. To locate areas of imbalance in the physical body. 2. To provide a channel for focusing energies onto specific areas of the physical body in order to balance and strengthen them. 3. To provide a channel for focusing energy on the whole physical body in order to charge it, give it energy, increase its vibration while increasing the muscular relaxation. First method: go to focus 10 and charge the EBT. Take out a 2-dimensional silhouette of your body, a silhouette that looks like a paper cutout. Place your physical body behind the cutout and look at it from the front. The cutout or silhouette is white. Your physical body is emitting a great deal of light that shines through the silhouette, making it glow and sparkle. But you may notice areas within the silhouette that are dim or flickering. These are areas of imbalance and or weakness. Take your EBT and aim green energy at the area in order to balance the energies. Then aim an ultraviolet type of purple at the area in order to add a high energy, strengthening energy to the area. If the image or thought of the silhouette, the living body map, is not clear enough to perceive any dim or flickering areas, aim the green and then the purple energies at areas you know are weak and not in balance. When you have completed this exercise with the white silhouette or map, turn the map red. Now the energy from your physical body will make the map a very bright, glowing red. Again, look for the dim and flickering spots. If you see any, you will know that there is an imbalance or weakness in the circulation system in that area of your physical body. Rebalance them with the green energy and charge them with the purple energy from the EBT. If you know of any difficulties within the circulation system, you can balance and charge those areas of the map. Then, in order to look at the nervous system, turn the silhouette blue. For the muscle and bone structures, turn it orange. And for the organs and glandular system, turn it yellow. White is a composite of all the systems in the body. When you have completed all this, turn the silhouette back to white and charge the bright white silhouette with the purple charging energy in order to charge and raise the vibration of the whole body. Notice the silhouette becoming brighter and whiter under the purple ray. To reduce pain signals, look with your closed eyes at that part of your body which is the source of pain signals. As you look, repeat in your mind the number 55515. When you do these two things, the pain signals will slowly reduce until they are no longer important. Second method. Go to Focus 10 and charge the EBT. Now, instead of locating a paper cutout silhouette, find a translucent movie screen that you store in Focus 10. You can unroll it from the ceiling or have it permanently set up in an area of Focus 10, or whatever you like to do to generate this image or thought. The screen is white. Place your body in a standing position behind the screen. Then have it walk right up to the screen while you watch from the front. Your body is emitting a great deal of light that shows up as a bright, sharp, two-dimensional silhouette on the screen. From there on, the exercise is the same as the first method, turning the screen red, blue, yellow, orange, and white. Emotional body map. First method. Complete the first method of the living body map exercise. Place the LBM silhouette back wherever you store it in Focus 10. Behind the LBM silhouette is the emotional body map, EBM, silhouette cutout of material finer and thinner than the LBM. It is a cutout silhouette of your emotional body. If no image comes to you of what shape your emotional body is, start with the image of your physical body, realizing that in time this shape may evolve into quite a different form. It may not. Now place this EBM over your emotional body, or, if you prefer, place it over your physical body with the understanding that the EBM, the silhouette, is glowing from the emotional energy coming from your body. Look for the dim and flickering spots. Balance and strengthen them with the green and purple EBT energies. Then, cleanse and strengthen the whole emotional system by sweeping the map slowly from head to foot with the high-energy purple light from the EBT. When the silhouette is much brighter and much cleaner, turn the EBT off and store the emotional body map back behind the LBM. Second method. Complete the second method of the LBM exercise. Pull down or use a second translucent movie screen behind the LBM. This screen is finer and thinner than the LBM screen. Place the emotional body behind the screen. Now, look at the screen from the front in order to see the sharp, bright, two-dimensional silhouette made from the glowing emotional energies of the emotional body. Complete the exercise as in the first method. The more you consciously perform and use the methods listed above, the easier and more effective they will become.
Holy crap. My mind is done. 1977 Monroe Institute of Applied Science, Afton, Virginia. How the CIA recodes the body. 55515. www.cia.gov/reading room/docs/CIA.RDP96, and you will see thousands and thousands of craziness. Imagine if they taught this in school instead of this wokeism. We would be a totally different species, I bet you, because whether you believe in this or not, the CIA has been doing this stuff for a long time and been getting billions of dollars to do this stuff, and we have no clue about this higher dimension, these higher frequencies. There's a whole crazy universe out there that we have no idea about. So hopefully this helps, and I'm sorry to break your minds, because it really is. And this is just, like I said, this is a scratch. This is nothing. That's why it's out there. It's in front of us. Go to the CIA.gov. It's crazy. It's amazing what you will find. Well, with that, thank you for listening. Keep your eyes and ears open for the elusive truth. Stay strong. Remember, we are all in this together, and we can overcome anything. We are strong survivors. Take care, everybody. See you next week. Bye-bye.